And this week's Parsha is, good afternoon, is the Parashat Re'eh. It's the fourth Parsha in Sefer Devarim. Now, this Parsha this year is being read on Shabbat HaChodesh, the Shabbat where we're blessing the coming month. And it is an interesting time because it is continuing the process, a tshuva that should have started in 3 weeks, Yud Zayin Tammuz through Tisha B'Av, because at that time we were recalling all the events that led to the tragedies of the 3 weeks to 9 days and Tisha B'Av, and that was one part of the tshuva process. Now, from Tu B'Av, we entered into a new period, and in fact, started with Shabbat, the Parshas with Shabbat Vayechanan, Shabbat Nachamu, Shabbat of Comfort, where we are gradually rising from the ashes and are in the process of doing further tshuva and coming close to Hashem. Particularly apropos to this is Elul, because this is the month where the King Hashem comes out to the fields, comes out to see to us. All we have to do is reach out to him, and he'll be there. Unlike the other months where, like, you see, with an earthly king or prime minister, got to go through major levels of bureaucracy to get anywhere near him, and who knows how many requests, if you can get to him at all. And here Hashem is there for us. And this particular parsha is very apropos to deal with this, because as it says at the beginning, Re'eh Anachi noten lefenekam hayom bracha b'klala. See, I present for you today a blessing and a curse. And a bracha, Asher tishmu al mitzvasai, Hashem Elokecha Asher Anochi Mitzvah Etchem Hayom. The blessing that you hearken to the commandments of Hashem that I command you today, God that I command you today. And Aklala Lo Tishmun Et Mitzvahs Hashem Elokecha Mistorem Min Haderek Asher Anochi Mitzvachem Hayom Leket Achrei Elokim Achrei Asher Liudatam. And the curse, if you not hearken to my commandments, you go out and you stray from the path that I command you today, to follow the gods of others that you did not know. And it's very carefully put. Now, it's so carefully put, why would anybody want to deviate from that? And part of it is that at that time, there was a desire for the Lord of Zorah, for spiritual, the easy way out, so to speak. And that was true. And listen, doing Hashem's mitzvahs takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy. And even though one achieves great things from it, both in this world and the next world, the other path is easier. In some ways, very easier. As the Orach Chaim explains, and I'll be getting back to more of his commentary on these Pesukim, the road looks smooth. In doing the negative things, not very challenging. And it looks like it's easy. But however, as one goes on, and as one has for the next world, 120 years, you realize that path is full of thorns. Serving Hashem, on the other hand, doing his mitzvahs, takes a lot of energy. There's challenges. It can be financially painful at times, as I'll be explaining. They're apparently financially painful. And therefore, people don't want to necessarily do them. But the path later will become smooth. The path in this world and ultimately in the world to come will be far greater, despite whatever challenges there are right now. Now, summarizing the Parsha, it says this is going to be done the Mount Ebal, Mount Gezerim. 6 the Levim are going to be in the middle, and 6 tribes are going to proclaim. He's going to say the blessings, say Amen, the other 6 the curses, to remind us of that. And then Moshe is giving us the blueprint of how to do it. We got to break all of the avodah zorah, idol worshiping things. You got to obliterate them. It says you got to bring all your offerings in one place. You got to bring all your offerings there. Now, in terms of wanting to eat meat and poultry and other things, you're allowed to do that, as long as you only offer the sacrifices. Now, it says you can't eat the blood. He then goes into a whole bunch of the mitzvahs. First of all, that you shall not add to it, not subtract from the mitzvahs. For example, as Rashi explains, you don't put 5 arbor minim, 5 species, instead of 4. To give one example, and that's one case. And then what happens? Talks about false prophets, and the test for telling whether a false prophet or dreamer of dreams is legitimate or not, and how that must be stamped out at all costs, even if it means family members. And if a whole city rebels, then it's checked out if the whole city would have to be Ir Hadaka would have to be destroyed. It then goes on to talk about this will be holy, all the things we're allowed to eat and not allowed to eat. So far, the commandments he's saying are Adam, Lamako, a man to God. Again, if he didn't command them, question is why should you do those? But then it switches, says you got to give a tithe to the poor at the end of 3 years. And he then talks about a Shemitah year. In the 7th year of each Shemitah cycle, one has to land the light fallow. And more relevant here even is one has to cancel all debts. Now, if one has to cancel all debts, that could be financially painful. And here he's saying, don't cut off the loans. I'll redeem you. He said there'll always be poor in the land. And it then talks about the Eved Ivri, the Hebrew slave. And when he leaves, you're going to give him, after 6 years of service, you're going to give him what he needs. And Hashem will bless you. Then it talks about sanctifying the firstborn children, firstborn animals. And it then goes into commandments of the 3 festivals. And it says in there, so a mixture of the spiritual, which we call Adam Makam, but Adam Lachvero, person to their fellow person, and how we have to be kind and we have to give to them. And the underlying lesson here is everything is really Hashem's, and we're receiving it on trust. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go to the first pasuk, first 2 pasukim, and from there, I think, say, in other words, we have to do all these righteous things. And if we do, it's going to go good for us. And this is particularly something to remember when we're trying to approach Hashem. And by the way, when we're doing a cheshbon nefesh, calculating our past year, we should first look at all the things we achieved, look at it in a positive spirit, and then only after that, think of the things that we could do better. And the wording of them, this is based on the Orthaim, the wording is a little unusual because why does it have to say seeing? Why does it say I? See, I you put before you the brach and the klala, and why does the rest of it? And why does it say re'eh, see, instead of u, which should be everybody should see? So one answer the Orach Chaim gives is, why is it saying I? Because he's saying you should forget about the worldly pleasures and you should be looking at the mitzvahs only. And he's saying because there's so many rewards coming in the next world, and when you're spiritually high. So he's saying only somebody who's been there, which Moshe was, he went to heaven after Shemayim, be with on Mount Sinai 3 times, Sinai. And he is the one who can teach. In other words, because I, Moshe, have been there and done it, I'm the one to tell you that. Now, why the singular Re'eh? One is Re'eh, look at me, and say that, you know what? Because anyone who draws near the service of Hashem should look to emulate him. In other words, they should continually grow towards his level, not measure them against a lower level than they are. They should be striving for the high, right? Another explanation he gives us is applying to certain special individuals. And finally, a one based on the Zohar says that all Torah students of Moshe, all Torah students of the Spar from Moshe, that in other words, he was speaking nation, all the Jewish people are offshoots of Moshe Rabbeinu, and therefore in singular form. Now, what that means is he was the basis of all neshumas. I have explained this before. He is the shorish of all the souls, those that were, especially the generation that's going into Eretz Israel. And therefore, why today? One explanation is given, you can only truly understand it after you've been a student of somebody for 40 years. And he's also saying, the underlying message, another underlying message the Orach Chaim brings, is that any success you have in this world is fleeting. And most of the person is supposed to live to 120, most don't reach that age. That is what we're talking about here, is that we're not going to be going higher. We're not going to, the end comes. So it's only what we carry into the next world. And that's teaching us and it's telling us we have to remember the next world and we have to choose. Now, how does it fit into a month of Elul? I would like to base this and show that if we do all these things, how are we supposed to take all these lessons and commandments? How does that fit in to Parsha? This concept of Elul, what is it involved? Here we're supposed to be looking towards achieving the next world. Now, the name Havaya, the Yud K Vav K Hashem, the created name which he created the world, comes in the letters in different orders. There's 12 of them. Actually, there's 24 combinations. But since there's 2 hays, there's only really 12 different ones, different combinations, where they don't start replicating themselves. And how do we get that order? They quote a pasuk. Sadecha tihiyeh lanu ki. These words. Now, if you look at these words, the hey, vav, yud, and let me read the pasuk, the verse that this is dealing with, which is a quote actually from the Varim from Va'echanan. Which we read 2 weeks ago. And it says, in the pasuk 25, chapter 6, Sadaka tiyeh lanu ki nishmor lasot et kol hamitzvos hazot lifnei Hashem lakek asher tzivanu, and it will be a merit for us if we kill him for his entire mitzvahs, as he has commanded us. And that's also a lesson we should be taking as we're approaching El and trying to seek a new year. And if you look at the words tzedekah, and you take out the hey, which is part of Hashem's name, and tiyeh, you take out the final hey and lanu, the vav, and ki in the final word. If you take that out, what letters are you left with? The Sedek, tiyeh, taf hey yud, lamed nun, and kaf. That is the gematria of tshuva. So inherent in that month is the tshuva. So it's teaching us that this is a month. It's a reminder that with this combination, that's a month that we have to rule. This also is based on the B'nai Yissaschar, and quote, so she's quoting from the Mishnah, Hasidim, Hanel, and the 4 letters at the beginning of the word, Vav, Taf, Lamed, Chet. That's the gematria of Tammuz and Av. And there's a remez that we have to, the dinim Tammuz Naz, we makayim in Elu, that we are going to be Pelei Tshuva, and that we are going to return to Hashem. That's what those first 2 months mean. And if you look, it's another race, the Rashi tables of these letters have the gematria of Abraham and Yitzchak, and that represents Ahava and Yira, and Sedek in the middle, that's most, that's Midas Liyakov, righteousness. Now, this shows we have to do righteousness. This is expressed in this parsha. We also have to love Hashem, and we have to do Yira. Now, why do we have to do both love of Hashem and Yira? Because the Or Chaim says, why don't we just do it out of love of Hashem? It's a higher level. We do mitzvahs and we do tshuva because there's a danger. If you only do it with love and you don't do it with a certain amount of fear, then you're going to come to the thing of, look, Hashem's a kind God, he's a loving God. You know, I slip here with this minor mitzvah, what looks minor to us, because we don't know what the reward for each one of them is. I don't have to do this, I cut corners there. Hashem is going to be forgiving. So we have to remember that if we don't keep all the mitzvahs, then there is a consequence for it. Now, I give us all a bracha that with all of this, that we will achieve what we need to in Elul, and we will go into Rosh Hashanah, hopefully at a much higher level. And Bezrat Hashem, may the full potential of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot and Shmini Atzeret be realized, and may we have a more positive year and overcoming all the challenges that we're now facing as the people, both in Eretz Israel and in Chutz La'aretz.